Hey, Amie,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She's Amie Cuevas. I'm Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that notification button, give us a thumbs up, leave us your comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
I almost forgot how to do the starting of our show because it's been like 2 weeks.
Yes. So just a couple of things I want to clarify before we get into the show, guys. First, my abrupt ending of the show last time. I know some of you were concerned, and I appreciate your concern. I was fine. Unfortunately, there was a mix-up in terms of the timing in my studio, and
And you got
it
the
was
shepherd's crook. It was
yeah, let's just say there was a double booking taking place, and my time was done. So they really just pulled the hook on me. So I apologize for that abrupt ending to the show, but I am fine. So thank you very much. I appreciate your guys' concern. And the reason why we didn't record a show last week, and we'll get to talk about it this week, is Amie was at Dodger, basically living at Dodger Stadium,
I
correct?
moved in. I think there were 2 games just with the way the schedule worked out. I was planning to go to all 7 and then life happened, but I was at 5. So it was still a lot. I'm still recovering.
It was the final homestand, so Amie had to make sure she got her money's worth. So that's why we did not.
I was there in a press capacity 3 of the days. Thank you
Oh,
very much.
excuse me. Perdón. 1,000 pardons, madam. So that's the reason why we didn't record, but we're here to catch up this week. So, Amie, before we get into it, are there any comments from the comments corner or anybody reach out to you? Anything interesting you want to share with us before we get into some baseball?
No, I think we were a little slim on the comments. I think everybody was kind of taking a breather before this last push in at the end of the season. Was there anything on your side that you wanted to?
Well, I do. I want to acknowledge El Cerebro for believing in the baseball gods. My compadre sent me a message saying me and the baseball gods. He's basically hinting that I put too much emphasis
On the
on
syllable?
on the syllable when it comes to the. I'm so glad that you got that reference. 100 points to whoever knows what movie we just quoted right now.
I don't know the movie off the top of my head. I just know the quote.
Okay, wow.
So I'll take 50. I'll be honest.
All right, good for you. I won't say it, so I'll leave it in case anybody guesses it.
Oh gosh.
But yes, and it was funny because I had that conversation. I said, "What, you don't believe in the baseball gods?" And it's like, I do. I just don't believe them as much as you do. I mean, everything is predetermined with you by the baseball gods. And I was like, well, we shall see at the end of the season, especially in the postseason, because that's when the baseball gods really seem to show their face and really show us how cruel they can be.
For those who believe and believe in their cruelty, I had conversations on the other side of that with some listeners and with some people around the stadium, and they don't go that route. I don't know how I tend to gravitate more towards the it is what it is people, but
so
we attract our own.
You attract whatever you put out there, so that's why you don't deal with it, and I deal with the crazies.
Well,
I get all the crazies.
I'll throw out a Mallrats reference, and we can smell our own. So.
Oh wow! So those people that you talk to, are they they're not stupid stitious, or they're just a little stitious?
They're stitious in their own ways, but it's not like it's hard to like the conversations I had. Like it's really hard to like put so much weight on the baseball gods because it's like, okay, so they pick one team over the other. Like that's kind of some people's thought process to other people's gods, and it's like, okay, so then you just wanted me to suffer. Like it's really hard to get behind some of that stuff where it's like sometimes it's just life. Somebody has to win. Like the Orioles, like Yamamoto with the no-hitter, and then the Orioles with like, oh God, what was the player?
Halliday?
No, the player that they were honoring, the Hall of Famer,
Cal Ripken Jr.
Cal Ripken Jr. I'm thinking of the other record we're going to talk about later, and so like for them, it like you could argue baseball gods either way. So the folks that I talk to are more just like, take it easy, man. It's like it's just a game. Like we love it, we want to win, but we have no control over this.
I get what you're saying, and that's one way to interpret the baseball gods. The other way to interpret the baseball gods is they honor those who respect the game or so-called play the game the right way. If you are trying to cheat the game,
yeah, but then how do you explain the Astros getting to keep their trophy and all that other stuff? They cheated the game.
Well, that they kept it because your best friend is corrupt. And
yeah, but if the baseball gods were all powerful, then the balances would have gone for good.
Well, they did lose the World Series the following the next time they were in the World Series.
Yeah, but that whatever but they kept the pennant in the World Series and all the other stuff
And they also get booed mercifully everywhere they go outside of Houston.
And
they will never. There is no rest for the weary.
And this just proves why you don't bring up politics or religion, even if it's in baseball, because not everybody's going to agree. We all have our different beliefs.
So, okay, let's get into some updates, Amie.
I have, well, my notebook is across the room, but I have just the big ones because, like I said, I have been at the stadium for days on end at this point. So we did hear that Will Smith had a hairline fracture in his right hand, so it's questionable whether he'll be available for the wild card. They're hoping it might be healed for the rest of the postseason, but for now, we have Rortvet, and we've been seeing him and rushing kind of platooning. And then Andrew Friedman, God, the days all blend. I think it was Saturday that he addressed the media, and he let us know that Brusdar Graterol is unlikely to return. He just has not progressed as quickly as they thought he would. But he was at the stadium. I think it was Saturday and Sunday. So he walked right by me on Sunday. I got to smile at him and he was going in. So he's still getting work in. He just hasn't progressed as quickly as they had hoped for him to return this season, at least in the regular season. They're hoping that if they continue working with him, maybe he could be available in the postseason, but it's not promised. So those are my two big ones.
Yeah, in regards to the Brusdar Graterol one, the minute he wasn't showing signs of being on the timeline in September, I knew he was gone.
Well, and we've heard minimal updates about him all year. It's been
yeah, once a timeline was not established for him, my expectation was he just wasn't coming back. I mean, if he did come back, I think great, that's found money. But once September came along and you still hadn't heard anything about a timeline, I was not expecting him.
You were like, who? What?
Huh? And I don't expect them at all in the postseason. So when people say these things, well, there might be a chance. It's either you're doing that out of desperation, or it's just not going to happen. When someone is recovering from an injury, I think it's really hard to then throw them into a sprint at 100 miles per hour and expect them not to hurt themselves. I mean, you could say maybe that's kind of what happened with Phillips last year.
Mm-hmm.
Was he might have done more harm to himself because he was trying to help the team. So I don't expect Brusdar at all to be coming in. The Will Smith injury to me is very interesting in the sense that I think the Dodgers absolutely need Will Smith in order to win the World Series. Can they get out of the wild card without Will Smith? Yes, I do believe that. But eventually, as they go further in the playoffs, they're going to need Will Smith's bat. I'm curious to what you think of this, Amie. The way Rortvet has been handling this pitching staff, I almost feel like maybe you ride the hot hand. And look, I make sure you guys are listening to this and listening to everything completely, and don't just pick and choose what I'm about to say. Will Smith's bat is better than Ben Rortvet. I'm going to start with that. Okay. Offensively, Will Smith is a better hitter than Ben Rortvet. but I will.
100%. I agree with you. Where are you worried about people coming at you?
He's actually producing. Ben Rortvedt is producing offensively more than I was expecting. So when I say, "Hey, let it ride, man," let's see how long you can get away with Ben Rortvedt and buy Will Smith some time. Now, I don't think that hand is going to be 100% at all for the postseason. So, and I know that they mentioned, I think Dave Roberts had mentioned, or maybe it came straight from Will Smith, that it's really just going to be pain management. It's up to how much pain he can tolerate while he's playing.
Well,
So
he's gonna have to pull a Freddie, and the pain
yes,
tolerance is one thing, but it's like how much does that actually impact your swing? Which those are things that you and I talk about all the time. Like, are you compensating in other ways? Did that little tweak end up impacting the mechanics of your swing? Now he was out there on Sunday working with the pitchers in catching gear, so he was out there, but I didn't see him. Like, they don't really do batting practice too much on Sundays. So he wasn't out there for that. I don't think I saw him out there on Saturday either. So might just be like working on the catching. Let's not try to aggravate it with any batting practice right now.
and once again, to remind everybody, Will Smith is a very important part of this team. The Dodgers, I guess they can win the World Series without him, but I would like their chances better with Will Smith in there. But I just want to remind you guys, Freddie Freeman missed the majority of the NLCS last year, and the Dodgers were able to get out of the NLCS. So not having Will Smith in the wild card round, I don't think is going to be the end all be all. Um, but if you can buy him some more time, that's probably going to be another week, that series, especially if they take care of business in the first two games. The divisional round won't start until the following week. So with this week and next week, 2 weeks, I had a hairline fracture, and I don't know how quick. I don't know how far along, but it felt really quickly that all of a sudden my elbow, I had fractured my elbow. I felt like I had a lot of mobility, and they never even put me in a cast or anything like that. So
Were
I
you were you were you working 10 to 12 hours a day batting and catching at that time?
No, I was not, but I
Oh,
was
okay.
keyboard worrying. I was
Okay.
so there was some. Yeah, I did have a padding there on my elbow. So, but like I really, Amy, I am really surprised at the job that Ben Rortvedt has been doing. Not only, I mean, obviously the way he's been handling the starters has just been fantastic. And I know this is when people will chime in and go, "Well, what's he doing with the bullpen, Juan? Maybe he should do the same thing with the bullpen that he's doing with the starters."
It's
I'm
almost
just
like the
saying,
front office does know how to pick some players. Like,
just write it as long as you can. Back in 1988, I know it's before your time, Amy, but Rick Dempsey and Mike Scioscia split catching duties, and Mike Scioscia was the number one catcher. But at the end of games, Rick Dempsey was the one behind the plate finishing games. So it'll be interesting. Those are things that are really.
well, and,
I,
and
I,
and something to keep in mind too is like Ben Rortvedt, he's been up a couple years already, so he's been playing in the bigs. Where you have Dalton Rushing, who has proved himself, but he's still a rookie. Like a lot of this stuff, this is like, you know, he hasn't been in the postseason before. I don't know that necessarily Rortvedt has either on the teams that he's been on, but he's at least been around the MLB for a little bit longer. So even if you have them working in tandem, I think it's better than just Dalton Rushing trying to wing it on his own.
I have more faith in Rortvedt right now than I do Rushing.
Yeah,
Uh,
and but
I
he does have the experience under his belt. So
Could Rushing run into one late in the game coming off the bench? Yeah, absolutely. But in terms of helping the team with his bat, and I'm not just talking about getting base hits or power or anything like that, but Ben Rortvedt can move a runner over. He can handle his bat in terms of bunting. So I say right now, at least behind the plate,
have you been
unless
counting the bunts? Have you
I
been
have
paying
not been
attention?
counting but I've just overall I've just been very impressed. Now I may have had lowered expectations for him and really not expected anything, and that's the reason why I'm so impressed with him. But I trust him more than I trust Dalton Rushing right now.
Well, just the bunting in general, though, because we're seeing bunting across like quite a few of the players. Chucky Robinson has done it. Rortvet's done it a couple of times. He did it the last time we were recording. Rojas bunted, and so like they are playing a little more small ball in the way that you appreciate.
Yeah, I mean the urgency, it's great to see them actually play with urgency and manufacture runs and finding out other ways to win games other than doing the Earl Weaver, will hit a 3-run home run and that's how we're going to win this game.
Well, they're
Uh,
kind of doing both because there's some games where they're like it's small ball wins the day, and then there's other games where it's like, yep, we won all of those off of home runs, and you know what? At the end of the day, it's the W that counts. So
True that. Now, at the time we are recording this, it is Tuesday. It is right before the start of the Doyers and the Serpientes series. The Doyers these are the last 6 games of the season. They have a 2.5 game lead over the Show Pods. The magic number is 3. So there is a chance that the Doyers could wrap up the division in this series with the Serpientes. You win 2 out of 3. The show pods are playing the Cerveceros, and the Cerveceros are still playing for something. And that is what they're playing for, is hoping the Phillies don't catch them for the #1 seed in the National League. So how hard, I mean, I don't want to sit there and say, well, the Cerveceros are just getting ready for the playoffs to start, so they're not going to really trying to beat the show pods. If the Brewers can just find a way to win one in this series with the show pods, it'll help the Dodgers. 2 would be greatly appreciated. I would much rather the Dodgers wrap this up in Arizona than have to go up to Seattle the
you just
last
want to
3
see him
games.
jump in the pool.
Well, that's not going to happen because
I know.
they're going to guard the pool like they did last
A
time.
gal can dream,
I
especially with. Can they like use the hey? It's Kershaw's last season. Can we just jump in your pool? Come on, guy.
That was a great moment. It absolutely was a great moment, but I think that was a one and done. I don't think the Serpientes are ever going to allow that. I mean, you remember, right? The last time the Doyers had an opportunity to clinch in,
Oh yeah,
and they brought out the National Guard to
it was
protect
like
that pool.
Fort Knox right around that pool area. But like I
Exactly.
said, a gal can dream. A gal can dream.
So this is hot off the presses, right before the start of the Serpiente series, but it looks like, and there were talks about this, Roki Sasaki will be activated tomorrow. So on Wednesday, there were reports that both he and Brock Stewart were in Arizona. So Roki will be activated tomorrow. Brock Stewart is still considered day to day. So Brock Stewart is still not activated. So we will see if he even gets activated by the end of the Arizona series or if he'll get activated perhaps in Seattle. Because the big question is, I'm sure when Roki gets activated tomorrow, the move will be to send Klein down because Klein just got called up and he has options. It is once if they do activate Brock Stewart by the end of the season, who else will they send down? And that's why I think it's also important that they go ahead and wrap things up in Arizona. So when it comes to Seattle, they can really just focus on getting work to whoever needs it. And they could send down Robleski. They could send some of those other rookies down because it's just going to be a first series. And then once the postseason start, they can bring them right back up.
Yeah, yeah. This is where you kind of wish that you could option other people, not just rookies. But
Well,
we'll get more into that as we go over the highlights.
Well, one of the candidates, I think, and this is one of the things, you can't option him because he doesn't have options. You either DFA him or you put an IL, a phantom IL stay. But I think if you look at it in terms of performance, Amy,
Who?
I I think one of the #1 candidates is Kirby Yates. Kirby
Yeah.
Yates has not been performing. So if you look at it based on performances, I think he should be a candidate. But again, will the Dodgers do that? The Dodgers love it. And that's why I would just rather wrap things up right now in Arizona. So then you could send down one of those rookies down for Seattle because you're not going to need them. The Dodgers are not going to be one of the two top seeds. So it's really right now about winning the division, securing that third seed so you can at least have the wild card series at home.
You never know. The Phillies could start losing.
I think mathematically it might be impossible, I think, at this point, but
This is why you just have no expectations and you write it out and see what happens. Like,
lowered expectations. Before we start recapping the series, I do just want to say this. In terms of Brock Stewart, we saw him a little bit, so I don't think it is that crucial for him to see time. It's really more for him to make sure he is healthy enough to pitch and getting into his routine. I think the Roki one is going to be the most interesting question, because there is a part of me, Amie, that is just like, do you really want to throw Roki in the postseason in a bullpen role, a role he's not familiar with, and you're basically going to do 6 games to be like, okay, get acclimated to the bullpen, and this is how we're going to use them? Look, I get it if you have no other choice. I get it if it's
I
if
mean,
it's
but they
desperation.
kind of don't have any other choice. Have you seen what's happened with the bullpen?
Well, and that's what I'm saying, right? Because if you are doing that, Amie, it's clearly because we can talk about it once we recap the series. But I think if you're doing that, that means you clearly don't trust Kirby Yates, because he's supposed to be one of your high leverage
So
right-handers.
it's just Kirby Yates that they like.
I'm
It
talking
just
about just right-handers, because
okay.
Roki's right-handed, so I'm only comparing him to a right-hander. There is another
Okay.
right-hander in the bullpen that I know a lot of Dodger fans have questions about, but he has a more impressive track record. So we can let's get into it when we recap the series. So why don't we start that? A pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. Amie, when we last left our audience, it seemed the Doyers only played 2 teams. They played the Gigantes in San Francisco. They came back and played the Phillies, and then they played the Gigantes again in San Francisco. They did really well against the Gigantes. Basically, I think the Doyers just completely eliminated the Gigantes out of the postseason. Technically, mathematically,
Shucks.
they are still in it, but the Doyers really ended the Gigantes season, and they made a late push at the end, but the Doyers took care of business.
Well,
Uh,
even against Logan Webb, and like as we know in San Francisco, like it is so windy there. Like pitching in there is such a challenge. I say is I've never pitched there myself, but like the fact that we were able to kind of overtake their pitching and win games, like and by big margins in San Francisco too. Like those were some telling games after that initial loss.
Yeah, I mean, they had been struggling on the road, so I thought it was really great to see them. In a sense, even though I know they kind of dominated the Gigantes here, they were playing playoff contender series after series. So in a sense, I think the playoffs are starting early for the Dodgers. So it was encouraging that they were able to go ahead and handle. Uh, there's really 2 things that I want to cover during this stretch. So you chime in on anything else. I really want to talk about this Phillies series, and in particular the bullpen, and I want to talk about Kershaw. So is there anything in that series in San Francisco that you want to address?
Yeah, there's a couple things I'd like to call out.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Like, I don't know if you got frustrated with like some of these like non-challengeable, like non-reviewable plays that we're seeing with umpires, like that Friday game we saw that Rortvet had that caught strike, and they
Yes.
called it as a bounce, and it was just like come on, dude. Like games rise and fall on some of these calls, and especially because Tanner Scott was kind of struggling in that inning as it was, and then to give up a grand slam afterwards, it was just like, man, if we could have had that strike, like what difference would it have made? And we'll never know. But it was still just, it wasn't just a, oh, he called a strike outside of the zone. It was like that should have ended that at bat at least. So it was a little frustrating watching that one.
I'm going to take a page out of your book in that sense, and say that's just baseball. But I'm trying not to get worked up over that one single play being the difference in the game, only just because the Dodgers had so many opportunities with runners in scoring position, and so they shouldn't have been in that position to begin with. So yeah, does it suck? It happened. Absolutely. But at this point, I mean, what are we going to do? Yeah, it's just baseball, right, Amy?
No, 100%. I just, to me, it's some of those things where like I know that the ABS won't change some of those, but like maybe we look into some rule changes for stuff like that instead of looking for things like golden at bats. I don't know, just maybe more practical stuff. But we did see Muncy get hit again in that Giant series. He took two the last time, and it was just like, good grief, could he like, and on the head too? Like you could see he was starting to get frustrated, especially by the time the second series rolled around. And I think he got hit a second time, and it's just like you heard Oral on the broadcast say, like, thank goodness for those ear flaps because years ago they wouldn't have even been wearing that. And like he took it off the head. Like it was a pretty, like the fact that he even jogged to first base was astounding to me. I'd be like, no, I'm good for the night.
Yeah, he's having a rough season.
And then we did see Shohei hit his 49th home run in that game. Did you catch? I don't know if you were listening to the broadcast, but Steven and Oral were throwing out all kinds of movie quotes through that game.
I know I missed that. I missed the movie quotes.
There were Dumb and Dumber quotes about like our pets' heads aren't falling off. And there was a couple Happy Gilmore references. And then, of course, they brought up For Love of the Game and, like clearing the mechanism. But I was like, I wonder if Juan's hearing this. Like, there's so many movie quotes that they're using tonight.
Yeah, let's just say I rotate the broadcast depending on who's on the broadcast. So sometimes if there's someone on television, I'll listen to the radio broadcast instead. Mm-hmm. Or if someone's on radio, I'll listen to the television broadcast instead.
Oh, I'll have to try to deduce who you mean. Whoever could you mean?
Exactly.
And in the vein of people getting hit, we saw that umpire take a ball straight to the face and his mask exploded.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like some of the stuff, like you think of football as a high impact game, but you don't really think of baseball that way until you start seeing some of these players just get like smacked around. So
I really thought he was going to get pulled because I thought he had a concussion. So I was really surprised that he continued.
Well, after some of the calls he made, I was kind of like, can we pull him?
Okay.
They weren't bad, but it was like, maybe we do give him the night off. I don't know. And then there was a lot going around about like, especially after that Friday game of like Tanner Scott tipping pitches and whatnot. But Oral had brought up on the broadcast that like when he was seeing his sports psychologist, when he was pitching, like his guy would give him advice, like, think about food. Don't overthink the game while you're in it, just to kind of pull your brain out of it. But he did say that, like, even if Tanner Scott wasn't tipping pitches, like if he was the manager, he would still tell him that he was, just to give him kind of a mental break or a mental excuse of like, that's it. It's something we can work on. We know what it is. And like, let's move on to the next thing to maybe kind of build up the confidence a little, which I thought was kind of interesting because you don't usually hear stuff like that. So it was just getting to hear Oral.
I did hear that one. And I do agree with him in that sense that I think people get really frustrated when they don't know what the problem is, what they don't know what the issue is. But there is a sense of relief once they do realize what the issue is. And we're like, okay, at least now we know what we need to get fixed. So
I hold my ball in my glove a little differently. Oh man, I do feel different. All right, I got this. So, and I think just the final thing that kind of came out of that series, just a couple of things that I thought were kind of interesting. That Sunday game, they had no home runs. So all 10 runs that they scored were all on small ball. And we did see, I got to text you, I was so excited that Conforto finally hit 200. And what a moment for him.
Michael Conforto seemed to really he really perked up whenever he played the San Francisco Giants this year.
He did. And to hit the whatever you celebrate, the Mendoza line, the Euchre line, like just the fact that he broke 200, like finally to kind of get people off his back was just, I was really happy for him.
And he dipped under the Euchre line, but he's back over it now. He's currently at 203.
Yeah. So just some interesting stuff. And then I love like little weird baseball stuff that you don't see that often. Like we always see ground outs, fly outs, things like that. But seeing like Tommy Edman score on a disengagement violation, like those are just like the weird little rule things. Or like in the bottom of the ninth, Drew Gilbert didn't touch first base. He's running to second. And then you see like, I think it was Kirby Yates realized, and he threw to Freddie Freeman at first. And after they reviewed the play, realized he didn't actually touch the base. And it's just like, those are the things that don't happen every day. Like it kind of just makes the game a little bit unique. So
I don't know how they caught that because he barely missed the base. He barely missed it. So I don't know moving that quickly how you can catch that with the human eye.
I mean, but these guys, if they're sitting like it's right by their dugout and they're like paying attention, I don't know. Like it's not shocking to me. I'm like, good for them. Wait, that was super quick. You guys caught it. It helped them. So.
It took like 2 or 3 replays or more and slowing it down to realize. So being able to catch that in real time to me is impressive.
But I think and they referenced it on the broadcast, but I remember it like a couple years ago. I think like Kershaw caught something like that too when he was in the dugout.
And he did it from the dugout, yeah.
Yeah, where it was like, and when they brought that up, I was like, yeah, I do remember that game. And it's just, again, super impressive that they can do it because it's just like, wow, that's as fast as this game moves for as slow as it is. Like, kudos to you guys. So those were my San Francisco in the Bay highlights.
All right, let's move on to the big series in Los Angeles. The Dodgers started their homestand with the Phillies of Philadelphia coming into town. And I will say this, Amie, I do feel like, especially in the National League, and maybe you can apply it to all of Major League Baseball, I feel like it is completely wide open. I don't know if there is a definitive favorite in each league to win the World Series. But I will say this, I think the Phillies have to be at the top in terms of favorites to come out of the National League. So this was a big series. And my overall take
over
from
the Brewers?
this. Because I take the Phillies experience over the Brewers. The Brewers had that hot streak towards like in the second half of the season, and that's one of the things you always are afraid, right? Did you peak too soon? You want to have your hot time right at the end of the year. So I think in a series between the Cerveceros and the Phillies, I would take the Phillies experience over the Cerveceros, but that's why you play the games, right? You
Somebody
never know.
Actually at the brewery said that last night too that I was talking to. They were just like, yeah, the Phillies they have more of that postseason experience than the Brewers have had in recent years, at least.
And people might, well, experience doesn't really matter, and it's just like, look, the fans get all tense and stressed out just watching it. I can't imagine what it must be like when you're on the field and what you're actually doing has greater ramifications on the game than me sitting on my couch, saying, I can't look.
And you want to win, especially as a player. Like, you want to bring your team to that next level. And it's just, oh my God. And you're reliant on your team. Like, you're only as good as the day that everybody's having. Like, your player that maybe is not having the best day versus your player that's killing it on the field or on the mound that day.
So the Phillies came in and they took 2 out of 3. They ended up winning the season series 4-2. I do think it's important that we have to point this out, and that is that the Phillies were missing 2 very offensive stars, very important players on that team in both Trey Turner and Alec Bohm.
Okay.
So
and let's point out all the players the Dodgers are missing too.
Well, who were they missing in that series?
Will Smith. You still have all your players that aren't like 100%. We're still like wrapping Tommy Edman and bubble wrap, and Freddie Freeman's like.
But Will Smith played in one of those games.
Did he?
He played in the Tuesday game.
Okay.
And then they sent him back. So I really thought the Phillies were going to come in and just hand it to the Dodgers. So I was impressed that they held their.
That was in the Tuesday game. Let's see.
Well, then it was the Monday game.
Will Smith didn't play in this series. He's on the IL. Dalton Rushing got activated.
Oh, okay, my bad. Corrections. Okay.
Go back.
Base runner.
This is why you keep a scorecard.
There you go. Thank goodness for scorecards. I was impressed, especially with the starting pitching that the Phillies, sent out against the Dodgers. Now, mind you, also they lost their best pitcher, Wheeler. He's not available. So, and then Nola is not having a good season. So, basically we saw the Phillies' best pitchers, and the Dodgers did a really good job of
Mhm.
being competitive and handling those starters. The difference in that game is, I think, the age-old question that has everybody anxious, and what's going to happen in the postseason. And I think the pessimists will say this is a preview of what we're going to see in the postseason, and that is the Achilles heel of this team is the bullpen. Last year during the postseason, Amy, the bullpen, I believe, carried this team. I
Mhm.
think in order for the Dodgers to win the World Series, if they match up with the Phillies again in the divisional series, that's only going to be a 5-game series. So that's going to be a short series. If the way the Dodgers win that series to me is the starters are going to have to carry the bullpen. The starters are going to have to
Yes, but you've
do.
also got to have offensive production too, because it doesn't matter, as we've seen, how great the starters do. If you only score 1 run by the time the bullpen comes in, you've got a game like what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, but I think the offense is starting to come around, though. I'm starting to see them be more consistent. I think their approach, after I've been begging them for the longest time to change their approach, it looks like they are doing that, and they're playing with that urgency. So I'm not as worried about the offense any longer as I was earlier. Now, mind you, you're absolutely correct. That can absolutely change in the postseason because you're going to be facing better pitching.
Mhm.
Um, I know the Metropolitans are going through it, but if the Dodgers do end up getting the Metropolitans in that first round, the Metropolitans proved all year long that they were very effective in pitching Shohei Ohtani. So I'm hoping that the Dodgers have been able to pick something up where that Ohtani can make the adjustment to how the Mets were pitching them, because he was not very good against the Metropolitans during the season. So, look, I'm
Well, and
encouraged by the
luckily right
offense.
now they're out. Cincinnati's ahead of them, so if the Reds can keep kind of on the tear they're at, I mean, that's, again, we have no control over any of this. This is kind of why, like, I feel like when we get so spoiled, when we get into the postseason, we don't even really have a magic number, because like the first week in September, we're like, we're already there. I feel like this kind of does make it more exciting. I know some people just want to win and be there and like, all right, we're guaranteed our spot, but like we haven't gotten really to like magic number it and like watch the other teams and see how the scoreboard goes. And I think that's some of the fun.
And right now, Vegas has the Phillies as the favorites to win the
Really?
World Series ahead of the Dodgers. The Dodgers are second
Okay.
when it comes to the odds. So if they can somehow, if the bullpen can somehow, and I know this is asking a lot because I think the bullpen is tired. I really feel like those meltdowns that they had against the Phillies in that series, Robleski, who's been good for the majority of the season, just had a nightmare inning where he gave up 6 runs, and just like that, a lead disappears, right? So
Hmm.
those guys that have been good the whole year, I just think this bullpen is tired. We've had this conversation before, Amy, in the
Well,
sense
5 runs so that Jose Ayala doesn't come get you. He gave up 5. Henriquez gave up the other one in that
Enriquez
inning.
got the other one. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I just feel the way they were used the whole season has caught up with them because it
We
has to.
Brandon Morrowed a whole bullpen.
Exactly. Exactly. So when guys like Jack Dreyer and Robleski, who have been good for the majority of the season, end up having a hiccup at the worst time possible, I can forgive those guys because they're just
How
when.
gracious of you.
Well, no, because it's
No,
like
I'm kidding.
they're clearly like the ones that he trusts the most right now during this stretch. So
100%.
because he trusts them the most, he's going to use them the most. And since they're getting used and they're younger, maybe they haven't developed that kind of stamina yet. But I'm encouraged in this sense, and that is Emmett Sheehan is going to be used in the bullpen. Now, we've seen this in the past. We saw Julio Urias do it. If you go further back, you see starters who go into the bullpen in the postseason and they become huge weapons.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that that's what's going to happen with the Dodgers because Emmett Sheehan has looked great lately, and if he can come in and do one or give you 1 or 2 innings and just really just shorten the game for you, that might be how you fix this bullpen issue. So
And
as
he's been pretty lights out. That Monday game, they piggybacked him on Bonda. So they had Bonda open up for a third of the inning, face 3 batters, and then they pulled in Sheehan, who went another 5 2/3, which that's not going to be the roll out of the bullpen. But the fact that he is so versatile in that respect, just like you said, it makes him a weapon that they can utilize. Whether it's like, you know what, we are going to put you in the bullpen, we're going to give you some rest before the next series, and we might use you as a starter in the next one.
Look, I think that Vegas is justified in having the Phillies as the favorites. That lineup terrifies me. Bonda, speaking of Daddy Bonda, that pitch that he made to
I hate when
Schwarber in
you
that
call
game,
him that.
that pitch that he made to Schwarber in that game, that was like Schwarber hit that out with one arm. Like, and it was a pitch that was outside of the strike zone. So I don't blame Bonda for that. Schwarber is just a freak, so he scares me. Later on in that series, Alex Vesia gave up a back-breaking home run to Bryce Harper, and again, that was a pitch that was maybe like 5 or 6 inches out of the strike zone. That you were like, no, either nobody swings at it, but you don't expect anyone's going to hit it out, and Bryce Harper hit it out. Those are 2 great hitters, and on top of that, you're going to add Trey Turner to this lineup in the postseason. Yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge facing this team if the Dodgers get to them. So I'm hoping that Sheehan will help. Obviously, those guys are going to face left-handers, so you hope that Bonda and Vesia, will succeed more times than not. But I really, if it wasn't for that bullpen, Amie, and I feel like that's what we're going to say in the postseason, if it wasn't for that bullpen, the Dodgers could have swept the Phillies. And how would you feel about the team then if you saw that if they would have swept the Phillies, they would have had a stretch where they would have won 8 out of 10 heading into the postseason. That's exactly what you want, right? It's like, oh, this team is finally clicking on all cylinders. They're getting hot right when they need to. Why are you smirking at me?
How's it feel to want though? They didn't do that.
Exactly.
So I mean, like that's great, that whole monologue, but they didn't. And there were some stats, especially going into that Monday game, that the Dodgers had lost the last 13 of their 19 one-run decision games. And as we've seen, they are one of the teams, at least in my opinion, this is totally opinion, they don't excel at extra innings. Anytime I go to extra innings, I cringe because for whatever reason, even with that runner on second, I hate the placed runner, but even though it's there and it saves the bullpen, like they, for whatever reason, cannot move that runner over. Even when they get like bases loaded, for whatever reason, extra innings are their kryptonite. Every so often they manage to pull it off, but other teams, for whatever reason, just seem to excel in those situations. And the Dodgers don't always capitalize in those
because they don't execute. And it was funny. I was having this conversation with my friend Alonzo before the game on Friday against the Gigantes in San Francisco. They were practicing situational hitting throughout that entire game on Friday. Situations that they were practicing were showing up and they couldn't execute it. So it's not that they're not trying to, Amie. I say this all the time. It's not that these guys don't try. They just can't do it. And that's what are you going to do? When Blake Trinan had his meltdown in the Phillies series.
I was like, which one?
Did you see his post-game interview?
Yes.
When he was basically pleading to the fans saying, this is not an effort issue. This is we're out there, we're trying, we're doing.
It's literally what we've been saying all season, or at least what I've been saying all season. These guys are trying. Like I don't know what more people want. Like it's blood, sweat, and tears on that field, and it's just not working. And sometimes that's life.
And that's why I say, Amie, it's not an issue of try. It's they can't. This is a game of execution. And
They,
in
I mean,
those
they haven't up
situations,
to this point, and I mean, they're trying. There are some nights where it does come through, but nobody seems to celebrate those nights. It's the ones where we don't that everybody hangs on to, and that's kind of what I take issue with. I'm like, all right, but they did manage to pull it out. Like, they won 6 out of those 10 games. They lost 4, but they won 6. So there were some instances where they managed to pull it off more times than they didn't. But why aren't people celebrating that part?
again, it's whether this is healthy or not. I think it's the anxiety of when it happens in the postseason. You don't have the luxury because you're in a sprint of, oh, okay, we didn't win this one. We can make it up later. If you don't execute in the postseason, it's going to be magnified. I mean, you're
Right, but you don't
in a
think
wild
those
card
play
series.
and not you, but, like, you don't think those players know that? Like, they're the ones
Well,
in the postseason. We're along for the ride. You don't think they know that?
and that's why for me, it's that pressure that the player puts on it on themselves. It's the pressure that we don't experience. It's a different type of pressure that we as the fans experience as we're watching the game,
Some
as they are
fans.
doing.
Some
So
fans.
that's why I feel like it's just a giant question mark to throw Roki into this position this week to try to get him in the bullpen, and then you're going to completely throw him out to the Lions in the postseason. I mean, it's sink or swim, right?
I mean, but that's the way baseball is. You bring somebody up midseason and it's sink or swim. You know, like, you bring them up at the end and you hope they do well. You hope he works well under pressure. But at the same time, the Dodgers still lead the National League West. Like, it's not like they had one of those years where they dropped down and the other teams were above them and we're chasing trying to get back to the top. Despite all of these struggles, despite not putting it together how they would like or how other teams or like how other fans would like, they still led the division. Like, I know everybody wants them to lead the league, but like, I think I feel like that point gets forgotten so often.
I don't know if it's forgotten or it would. What happens is the show pods played like crap in that same stretch. If the show pods hadn't have
But
played
they
like crap,
but they didn't.
right? But that
Everybody's tired. Like, so, like, but they didn't. So it the Dodgers still managed to pull it out at the top.
right. So your way of looking at it is the Dodgers did what they had to do, while other people look at it and say, well, they got away with it because the show pods didn't do what they were supposed to do.
But I guess that's where it comes into baseball. Like, you said that about, like, when we were talking about the challengeable calls in the beginning, and like that, to you, that's a non-issue. To me, this is a non-issue because we're seeing the Mets lose ground. We're seeing the Brewers not play as well as they would like. That is literally baseball. So, like, for the people, and watch however you want. I'm not trying to attack you. This is where my brain goes. But they're all doing that. They're all tired. They're all at the end of the season. So it's not just like, wow, the Dodgers really got lucky because the Padres didn't play well. Yeah, they did, but like it's not like they were this unicorn team that just didn't play well and happened to benefit from the Padres not playing well. Like, that's going around the league. That's why you're seeing the shuffling of teams. So that's where, for me, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I understand the point. I don't need you to explain it to me, but like, I'm just like, okay, that's an interesting take.
Well, that's why I think it's wide open in the National League because you just don't know what's. I see why the Phillies are the favorite. I think they're the ones that have played the most consistent. But at this point, anything can happen in a playoff series, and so I
We
was
saw
encouraged.
well, did you like just the fact that Shohei went 5 no-hit innings? Like, good for him. I know there was a kerfuffle after that of like, why didn't we leave him in? And it's like,
Yeah, I don't
people
get
had
that.
some feelings around that. Like, I was surprised how charged that topic was, where it was just like, but he's only done 5 this whole, like, why would you, like, all right, okay,
Yeah,
have your
I
feelings.
yeah, I don't get that at all. I guess maybe they look. The guy has never pitched into the 6th inning this whole year. The Doyers are super conservative, and I was really surprised by that too, Amy, because allegedly these are fans I know that watch every single game. So if you watch every single game, you should know like this is how this team operates. So I don't know how much. I guess the only
It
thing
wasn't just
is
fans, it was across social media, some people who write articles, things like that. Like it wasn't just fans. So that's where I was the spin was interesting to me where like there's always different takeaways even on how Dave Roberts comments on stuff where like there was that the comment about Japanese media had heard that Shohei was like any way to win, I'll play in left field because of the Shohei rule. For anybody who isn't aware, if he comes in a bullpen situation and then leaves, if they pull him to replace him, we lose him as a designated hitter. The only way to keep him would be like throw him out on the field. So the thought was, at least from the question from Japanese media, well, yeah, he'd be willing to play it. When I watched that presser, like to me, Dave Roberts, one, caught off guard by the question, but two, was like laughing about it. Like, oh, okay. But then you hear the portrayal from other people and it's like he was delighted about it and now he's changing tack. And I was like, wow, we all really just interpret things completely differently in this sport, because I didn't get anything from that presser like that.
the only way we see the unicorn come out of the bullpen, in my opinion, is in the ninth inning. That's
Yes.
the only way you're going
And
to
a
see him.
guaranteed ninth inning, because we can't have it where we're going into extra innings and then you lose that bat, especially in some of those situations. And then you see
That-
the opposite of that with Blake Snell asking like, come on, I want one more batter. And it was just so reminiscent of the 2020 World Series where it's like, is Dave Roberts going to give it to him? Is he going to let him face that batter? Versus like, he got pulled and then Austin Barnes kind of helped break that game open.
That was a very interesting moment because it was one of those moments where, and Blake Snell said this afterwards, that he just doesn't like the bullpen coming in to finish an inning that he started. But I know a lot of people read into this after two brutal losses the night before. I'm not going to let the bullpen come in and blow this one, so I'm going to finish it out of there. Look, I think those are absolutely valid points. I think when baseball people are upset about Otani being pulled after 5 innings, I don't know if it was like let him go out there one more inning, and if he gives up a hit, you pull him. But I think what's happening and what's not being reported, it's not being confirmed, but people in baseball circles are saying there's no restrictions on Shohei. That Shohei's people have said this, that Japanese media have said this, because Japanese media has repeatedly asked this. What are his limitations? And they're being told he is not being held back, which contradicts what has happened, what we're seeing, because you can't say he's not being held back when he is being held back, because there's a limit, there's an innings limit on him. They're not letting him, one game it's 4 innings. Now they've stretched it to 5 innings. Don't tell me there's not limitations on him. There clearly are. He may
Well,
not
and
want
Dave
there to be
Roberts,
limitations on there, but he has them.
well, and Dave Roberts said they have these meetings before games, so like they're all on the same page. So that's where like it's very confusing to hear different reports in that vein, because if they're all on the same page, well then all right, cool, 5 innings, 5 innings, all right, move on to the next thing.
And that's what to me is fascinating, because I don't know that we have this. And maybe we have this problem, but we're not aware of it because it's not Shohei Otani. But when you have a player holding two separate types of press media post game interviews, one in a completely different language, us, the English speaking media, we ignore when he speaks to the Japanese media, right?
Well, we
So
don't ignore, we get escorted out.
in turn, what I mean ignore is you're not reading Japanese media and what Japanese media is reporting, right? We don't. You're reading what the beat writers, the English speaking beat writers, are reporting, what they're writing in their stories. Or I could be wrong. Some of you may read Japanese and
No,
are reading what Japanese media is asking him and what he's answering to him.
I would just say it is a little collaborative in there because I've been in the press box when people are of both sides. Japanese media comes and asks us about some of the English speaking questions and interpretations, and vice versa, which is how the left field thing even got out, because he didn't say that to English speaking media. He said it to Japanese media. So like, I feel like there's still a little bit more collaboration where that stuff does make it. I don't know if it's a headline or if they have to corroborate it, but like, I feel like there is still a little bit of collaboration there, at least from what I see.
I just to me it's obvious that the Dodgers are trying to protect him from injury. It's one of those things that I just feel you can't do. I don't think you can protect anyone from an injury. If an
Yeah, but
injury is going
you
to
can
happen,
limit the damage. Anybody may get injured, but if I don't overuse you, you're not going to get injured as quickly. If I just throw you out there and I build you up to 7 and then I'm continuing to use you at 7, you only get so much gas in the tank. At some point it's going to run out. So if I want to use it for multiple days, then I am going to limit you.
yeah,
So
I mean you're just one pitch away. So whether it's at the in the bottom of the in the top of the 5th in this game or in the first inning of the next game, when your time comes, your time comes.
right,
You know,
and they're going to kick it down the road as long as they can to get more longevity out of him. I
so
just
when it gets to the postseason, that's where I'm going to be very interested to see if he truly does have restrictions.
Well,
Um,
I mean, there are still going to be restrictions because they will still be building him up at that point. But they've also said that he will be going longer than 5 innings in the postseason. So whether that's a buildup of 6 the next time, just again, he is coming off Tommy John surgery, and he had surgery on his, what was it, his shoulder. You do still have to be careful with these guys because, much to everybody's chagrin, or if they want to ignore it, these guys are still rehabbing and healing while they are playing a super intensive game. All of them.
Look, if he's still recovering, it's mighty impressive. 53 home runs. He's almost matched his total of last year. So if he is still, recovering, it's mighty impressive to me what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and hey, at least they shut out the Phillies. Like, we couldn't take the series, but they did shut them out that last game where it was just kind of like, yeah, all right.
Do you want to talk about Blake Trinan, or do you want to save it for the Giants series?
Talk about, well, we're getting ready to go into the Giants series. What do you want to talk about?
Well, just his volatility in the bullpen right now. I mean, it surfaced in the Philly series. It surfaced again in the Giants series. So that's why I don't know if you want to talk about it now, or do you want to talk about it as we get into the Giants series at
Maybe
home.
talk about it as we get in, because like, yeah, it's definitely concerning, especially as we round out the Giants series.
All right, so let's get into the Giants series then. For me, that whole series, even with the issues with the bullpen, I mean, look, they won 3 out of 4. I mean, you want to get greedy
And
and
they
have them
almost
sweep.
had 4, and they almost had 4 in the bag.
Yeah, they almost had it. But for me, that whole series was about Clayton Kershaw. And
I've been living and breathing Clayton Kershaw since Thursday.
I'm curious, did you see it coming? Or were you just as shocked as I was when you saw it when you heard the news on Thursday that he had announced that he's retiring?
So from what I heard, like, nobody really knew. Like, he'd told a couple close people, he had said, and like, Muncie knew, but like, even the players didn't know. So I was actually at Dodger Stadium for a season ticket holder, a membership. There was a luncheon with Kike Hernandez. So I was there for that. Kind of, Mark Langell was interviewing Kike. It was amazing. And then right as that was about to wrap, I looked down at my phone and I saw the Dodgers posted that after the postseason, Clayton Kershaw will be announcing his retirement, and he will be making an announcement later today or something like that. And it was like, what? And luckily I was going to be working that night. So I went and changed parking lots, went and picked up my credential. And by that point, they had let us all know that he would be speaking at 5:30. So as far as like me personally, I had no idea he would be announcing this, but the timing itself does make sense. Like, if you are going to go out, you do maybe want to let the fan base know. Like, I guess he could have gotten through Friday night and then told people, but that would have been kind of lame. So like, at least if you're announcing it Thursday, the world has a whole 24 hours to get used to it, and then you go and you throw in your game on Friday, and you get it out of your system, and then you go through the rest of the weekend. You do your bobblehead day on Saturday with your family. You make your address to the fans on Sunday, and then you go on your merry way on road trips for the rest of the season until the postseason starts. So, I mean, it made sense once it was announced.
Yeah, I'm glad he said it. I really glad that he announced it. I guess that's the best way of putting it. What you said, Amy, in terms of the timing of it. Now, the way he's pitched this year, you would think, hey, he's still got another year on. He can keep going. But I do respect that because he's having a good year, that he wants to go out. Like that's the last memory. That's the risk that you run when you're someone that has that long of a career. Do you want to leave the game because the game retired you, or do you want to walk away from the game? The way the greats like Barry Sanders did, the way John Elway did, not everybody gets that goodbye. So I really do respect that he made that decision. That
And
he
even like you mentioned with the Cal Ripken thing, like to me, I'm glad he picked a day and he just ended his record. And you were like, no, 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 I want to see how long he can go. And it's like, I wouldn't want to go out on an injury. I want to go out on my own terms. And I feel like that's what Kershaw kind of did. And especially a lot of this is driven, like we've heard from other people, by family concerns. He's missed a lot. So,
and he has a fifth child on the way, right?
Yes, yes, he had his 4.5 children present. But Kike Hernandez said something similar too in the interview, because Mark Langell had asked him, like, once your career is done, like, what are you going to do? And he's like, I've missed for the last X amount of years of my career. I've missed birthdays. I've missed deaths. I've missed things with, my immediate family, but I've missed my littlest sisters growing up. They're all giving a lot up for this game. And for him to like just be there with his family, is there going to be withdrawals from it because he's, Kershaw's had 18 years of this? Absolutely. But the fact that, he's going to have time with his kids while they're still little, like that's a big deal.
So you were there Friday night, correct?
Yes. So I was there as media when he made the announcement Thursday, which was just, oh my gosh, it was very moving. You saw the players crying. And all of the media mobilized to be there. And then Friday I was there as a fan. I had taken my little nephews to the game. They had as a season ticket holder, again, you get some of these experiences. They got to do the batting practice, like watch that before the game. So before Thursday's game, Kershaw was all around the field with Charlie. Like they were throwing out in the field. He was pitching to him. He was batting with him, doing all kinds of stuff. Kind of the same thing on a little bit more limited on Friday because he was going to be, pitching in that game, but you could see him around. And then he did the same thing. Saturday, we saw Kershaw taking batting practice, and he looked like a little kid. It's like he's trying to get all of his fun in right now while he still has it. Like he took batting practice, like he was in that cage like 3 or 4 times, and just the smile on his face. And then again, back on Sunday, playing with Charlie around, tossing the long ball, like going and doing stuff around the field. So it's like he's trying to drink up every little bit of it that he can.
What was the environment like Friday night? I know the game was sold out.
It was electric, and like it was almost like the night where he was trying to do the 3,000. You could like every pitch, it was like or like like the crowd was with him all of that way, and like it almost felt like a different kind of crowd, especially with how much the tickets were going for. Like it was all the baseball nerds. It's all the history junkies of like, I was there at that game. Like all the people who, it wasn't as much of the casuals. At least it felt like. So it like, I don't know. It was a really cool atmosphere. So I'm stoked because my nephews got to see that. And then we had some of our other listeners, Jessica and Philip, were there. And I'm sure there were other people all around the stadium too. I think one of our listeners, Armando, was there. So I'm sure we had all kinds of people there that night or watching from home because the tickets, from what I heard, were exorbitant.
So I watched the game with my dad Friday night. Shout out to my wife. She was the one that gave me the idea. She's like, go watch the game with your dad. So my dad and I, we were watching the game. And mind you, I know a lot of people were upset because the game was on Apple TV.
Yes, I was just going to say that was a big deal.
And, I want to be fair about this because this game was scheduled for Apple TV a long time before Kershaw made the announcement.
Right.
I'm sure Apple TV heard about this the same time that the rest of the world heard about this.
You
Now,
mean less than 24 hours before?
exactly. So, could they have worked something out where because there were 2 games on Apple TV on Friday night. The
They
earlier
did work
game
something out with the Mariners
with the
that
Blue
didn't
Jays,
end up, or the
with
Blue Jays that
the
didn't end up
Azulejos.
needing
Exactly.
to happen.
So I thought because they did that with the Azulejos, I thought they would do the same thing with the Dodgers and either local have spec because there have been times, especially when the Dodgers were in the pennant chase, where Spectrum would allow the game to be shown on local television, so everybody could watch it. So I thought maybe something like that,
Do
but
you think Apple gives up all that money from potential subscriptions from the LA area? Not even just the LA area. That's countrywide. You've got Dodger fans all over.
Honestly, I really in this time, and I could be wrong. This time, I don't believe. I really think it was just a logistics and a time thing because it was less than 24 hours. I don't know, and maybe you could have. And I don't work in that industry, but maybe you could have worked something out very quickly with Spectrum Sports and that, where you could have allowed a dual broadcast to take place. But that being said, my father called me earlier in the day and was like, "Hey, it's not Spectrum says they're not showing the game." He's checking on the guide, and it's like the game's not like. Where am I going to watch the game? So I do have Apple TV, so
Same.
I went over to his house, and luckily he has Roku, so I was able to get it on the Roku, and we watched the game together.
Aww.
And when Dave Roberts came out to pull him, I had to I have to admit, Amy, I it was emotional. I did not think I was going to react that way, but I really what happens in that moment is you realize all the years you were watching this guy and then everything he's done for the team, all the great performances that you got to witness, the finality of it just really kicks in, and I
It's
found
an
it to be
end of an
really
era.
I found it to be sad. I found myself sad, even though it was a great moment, especially him coming off and seeing they keep cutting to Ellen just bawling, and you're just like, oh my god. It was a very touching moment, and of course, in typical Dodger fashion, of course he leaves the game losing because I feel like it was such a microcosm of what he's done for that team. Yeah, I get it. He wasn't pitching his best, but he kept them in the game.
But
And
I mean, how could you like I give it to him for going out there. Like that's a lot of emotions to deal with, especially after we saw with that 3000 game. Like
yeah,
he was pitching emotionally, and how could you not? Like I feel like the team even defensively was playing emotionally around him because there were some bobbles back there, and those guys, that's the last thing they want to do on Kershaw's last like regular season homestand. But you can't like that is, I won't even say that's baseball, that's life. Like you can't just turn off some of those things. Maybe there's some people who can, but like it's really hard to do that. And like you with your father, like just getting to be there with my nephews. Like it was just, there have been some moments since I usually go to games by myself where it's like you see everybody celebrating around and like having them there and knowing like in 10 or 15 years when everybody talks about this game, like we were all there, we shared that memory. Like it was sad, but it was also like these are the rare baseball moments that just they're amazing. We're all sharing that moment. It doesn't matter what you believe, it doesn't matter your religion, your politics, your whatever, your social standing. We were all there in that moment on TV in the stadium present. And that just, I feel like that's so cool.
yeah, you hit it. I think that's why when the Dodgers won the World Series in 2020, I don't know if you saw the videos that they were
You had one
montages,
recorded.
but there were montages of like everybody's reaction. And it still sticks with me. There was one dude who was holding, I think, a Dodgers jacket, and it was his dad's jacket. And the minute the Dodgers won, he just hit the ground crying. And it was because he didn't have his father anymore, and he really wanted to share that moment seeing them win again after over 30 years.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think it happens in all sports, to tell you the truth, but there is something about baseball in that moment of sharing it with family members or friends, or stuff like that, and it's that chimes in with that perfect line, right? How can you not be romantic about baseball?
Hmm. Well, and that's kind of something like, so over this week there it overlapped with Sabres Women in Baseball Conference. So while all this is going on, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you have all of these amazing presenters presenting on the game, and it just proves, like, whether you like nerd out to the nth degree, you're a scorecard person, or you love the stats, or I just like the game, I just like watching. Like, there's so many different people across the spectrum of baseball that this game impacts. And like, I got to moderate some of the panels, and just the passion that people have for this game, it floors me all the time. There's so much about this that I love, and the fact that we are witnessing history. Yes, we'll see him probably first ballot Hall of Famer. Hopefully he gets voted in unanimously so that you don't blow a gasket again. But just things like that. Like, we still have all these, the season's not even over, and we still have all these other milestones to look forward to with him. And like he said, there's still a month more of baseball where he gets to play. And I think that was one of the most moving things, even from his speech before Friday's game. Like, when he was talking to the media on Thursday, was he broke down talking about the players. Like, he's gonna miss, like, the feeling after a win, like the flights, all the time, that the like inside jokes with those guys, like, that's gonna be hard to let go. And you take all that emotion, and he's trying to, like, let some of it out, bottle it up, like he's like throttling his emotions, and then he goes into that Friday start. And it's like, yeah, it's going to be a little rocky. But I mean, at least they did turn around and they won. He wasn't the winning pitcher, but they at least got him the win.
I'm already preparing myself that he's not going to go in 100%, Amy. I'm already, because I know there may be more than one writer that's going to hold his postseason record against him.
Really?
I know it's going to
What
happen.
a
Yeah.
bummer, man. What a
Let me tell you, I'll
bummer.
be more surprised if he goes in 100. Now, I think he should go in 100% because to me, he's a no doubter. But I'm fully prepared that there's going to be at least one, if not more, holdouts that will say his postseason record is what prevents him from being a
Which
first ballot Hall of Famer.
which is kind of out of his control, especially with like the overuse and stuff. Like, when the front office puts you in, they put you in. But
I
did
mean,
you
I think it's BS. I mean, if one person held out on Ichiro, I can see them
I
holding out
wonder,
on
like,
her.
is that like a pride thing? Like, I was the one. I'll never tell anyone because I'll get mobbed, but I was the one. Like,
No,
mm,
I wouldn't be surprised if more people come out with that one with Kershaw because again, I feel like they feel the postseason record is a justified argument for them
mm,
to say that he's not a with Ichiro. I think the reason why that guy kept his mouth shut is because there is no justified argument for not making that guy a
I
first ballot Hall of Famer.
but I feel like there's so many other facets of Clayton Kershaw's career that, like, to hold just the postseason against everything else he's accomplished is, I mean, to me, frankly, it's
Yeah,
silly. But yeah,
I mean,
who
I
cares?
think
You
I
know.
think it's ridiculous. I mean, look, there's only been I believe it's only one. I think it's only Mariano Rivera is the only one to go in
You know.
unanimously. So
Yeah.
all these other guys who should have gone in unanimously, like there's a pitcher, Greg Maddux, who did not have a very good postseason record. If Greg Maddux didn't go in unanimously, which a lot of people feel like he is, I think, very comparable to Kershaw, then I'm preparing myself. Let's just
Well,
say I'll be
that's a
very
problem for we're borrowing
yeah.
trouble from 5 years from now.
Exactly. I'll
Um,
be very surprised. I hope pleasantly surprised too to hear that he went in 100%
so
unanimously.
did you see? I don't know if they showed it on the broadcast. Like, did they show, like, when he goes out to start pitching before, like he when all the players run out? Because sometimes they'll show that on the broadcast,
We missed that.
sometimes they
My
won't.
dad and I missed that.
Okay,
They might have.
so we got to interview. We were interviewing a bunch of players Thursday, as like, hey, what are your memories of Kershaw? What do you think? Like, all the going around. Max Muncy, Mookie Betts. I think Freddie Freeman talked to another group of media, but Max had said that Kershaw would be pissed off if they did like any pranks, or like he goes out on the field and they like kind of wait back. So there was no way they were going to do that. And then fast forward to Friday's game, you see Kershaw jog out on the field and nobody moves from the dugout. They're all just kind of hanging out. And he like gives them the like, come on. And nobody moves. And he starts like throwing his warm-up pitches. And then they slowly meander out on the field. But it was like, I wonder who won out in that team meeting, because Muncy was like, we are absolutely not doing that. He would be so pissed off. And then lo and behold, Friday comes and you see Kershaw just with that like arm wave and he's irritated, but it's like, they kind of got you.
Look, it's the reason why he made the announcement the day before his last start at Dodger Stadium. He did not want a going away tour. You know, there are some players.
And he's going to get one, because you're still going to see people on the road who the day he pitches, whenever he pitches this time around.
It'll probably be in Seattle, I believe, is where he's going to pitch.
Probably. I mean, hey, at least they clinched a postseason berth the night that he was pitching. So that was kind of a good way to go out too. So you get your champagne toast for the postseason. You toast Kershaw for a great career. He gets his second pitching rubber. I'm like, where do you even put those things? Do you bury them in your yard? Like,
I'm sure he has a very nice trophy room, so I'm sure it's in there.
Like, gosh, just like, oh, these are my pitching rubbers. Like, okay, but
exactly.
So yeah, Friday was a game. Like, and he got to like they paused the game for almost 5 minutes to let him kind of have his moment, which I appreciate in baseball. Like, don't rob us of a moment. Don't pitch clock us to death. Like, let us have our historical moment, because this is part of why we come to the game too.
Yeah, it was a great moment, and like I said, for me, that whole series is wrapped up in it. I mean, I don't know. There is one other thing I want to talk about, but I don't know if there are other things that you want to cover in that series. Go ahead.
Just from his perspective, like I mentioned, he took BP, like he had his bobblehead, and you did hear fans upset again, like for some of those big Shohei bobblehead nights, like they give one to everybody, but it was only the first 40,000 for people to get that Clayton Kershaw one. And then he did address fans before the game on Sunday. I was expecting kind of a longer address, like kind of what we got on Thursday. And it was pretty short. I was just like, oh wow, it took him longer to walk out and watch the video play on Dodger Vision. And I get it. Like, what do you say? But I was like, wow, it's over. Okay.
He is definitely not a peacock. He is not about that kind of stuff. So
no. And before him, they did for Tommy Lasorda's birthday, they did give away the Tommy Lasorda Award. I think it's the I Bleed Blue or whatever. Normally it's one person. This year it was two. So Steve Brenner from the PR department got it. He's been around for forever. I think he started, they said, in 1975. But he's also one of the ones who was involved in that Melissa Ledke, that 1977 World Series where MLB ended up suing her the following year. He was the PR person for the Dodgers when all that was going down. And then Jaime Harin got the other half of that award, since they split it between two this year.
That's great. And then the Roy Campanella Award winner was Miguel Rojas.
Yep.
And
Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts was nominated for the Roberto Clemente Award, which to me is a huge honor, a huge. So I'm rooting for Mookie. I really hope he wins that, because I think the Roberto Clemente Award is very impressive.
Mm-hmm. And we saw Shohei hit his 53rd home run, and then Rortvedt once again bunted. Rojas bunted, so I was counting the bunts for you. And then we saw the Sunday Trinan situation that I'm assuming you want to get to.
Only in this sense, and that's because Dave Roberts had mentioned that part of the reason why Blake Trinan is struggling is perhaps a lack of confidence. But I heard a really good explanation by Jose Mota in the radio post-game show on Sunday. And it seems like his fastball is okay, but his big pitch that he seems to be struggling with in terms of getting over the plate, because that seems to be the big issue with Blake Trinan right now, is his control. That sweeper that he throws is the one that is just, he cannot consistently either throw for a strike or get hitters to swing at. Mm-hmm. And Jose Mota was he was explaining about how Blake Trinan really doesn't push off his leg. And that's what gives you the extra oomph in terms of adding speed to your pitch, or even adding a little more control to that pitch. And because he's not pushing off of that leg, he's basically just using his entire arm for it.
That just made my arm hurt, and I'm not even a pitcher.
And so Jose Mota's like, that's contributing to his control issue. But it's one of those things where you have to ask yourself, okay, well, why isn't I don't think, if you look back, I don't think he was a pitcher that used his legs much like that. But it really poses the question of, is he trying to protect himself? Now, I'm not saying he has another injury. Maybe he's just mentally trying to protect himself because he came back from injury and he doesn't want to get hurt again.
Or
And
maybe this is how his body works post injury. This is how it just works now.
Exactly. So for me, there's a lot of questions there. It's a confidence issue. Is it a mechanics issue, or is it a health issue? That's a lot of questions to have going into the postseason for a guy who is one of your highest leverage guys, one of the guys that you trust the most. And I don't think, we have a week left in the season. I don't, regardless of what he does, Amie, I feel like they're still going to roll with him in the postseason because, like you said earlier in this episode, they don't have any other options.
Well, and I think I heard a stat that like his last 5, not starts, but like the last 5 that he's been in, like he's gotten the loss. Like,
yeah, he's 1-7. He's 1-7 this year. It's just unfortunate because, I mean, a lot of those losses are because he's in there at the end of the game, or at least towards the end of the game.
Well, I understand Robert's mentality of like he's got to try to work it out now in the regular season. Unfortunately, they're still trying to clinch like the division, so you're at odds at both of those things. Like you're walking a fine line. You do need him to figure something out before we go into the postseason, but at the same time, like you can't keep dropping games. But then it's also like, okay, he faced 3 batters. Like, can you, in this case, we are trying to clinch. Let him figure it out after we've clinched and then put him in. But, these are all the decisions none of us have to make. Like, we get to watch and see how they're made after the fact. But, like, we're not involved. But 2, like, these decisions are made without our input. And they're not, nothing about that's going to change. So we see the aftermath.
Yeah. So I don't know if this week is actually going to answer those questions, or if it's just going to clutter it even more the way the bullpen is used this week. But I really think going into the playoffs, that's the number one question, and I think it's going to determine how far they go into the playoffs is the bullpen. It's just, will the bullpen be able to figure things out, or will the bullpen be who they are?
Well, it's the 3-pronged issue that we constantly have, right? It's either starting pitching, the offense, or the bullpen. And for much of the season, the bullpen was the star of the game, and your offense and your starting pitching was like, Now the starting pitching has gotten healthy enough, but now your offense is showing some signs of life. So it's not like it's 2 out of 3, but it's still like your bullpen is that is the crux of everything right now. So hopefully if starting pitching can at least continue to move the way that it's moving, and your offense can continue to find ways to bring in runs, that's the only way we're going to be able to overcome some of these bullpen things, unless these guys find it. And it's not for lack of trying on their part.
Yeah, for me, it's the starting pitching. They got to carry them. They got to do their part. Anything else on that last homestand there that you want to add?
No, that was a lot. I'm tired. Whew.
All right. Real quick, there was a milestone that was achieved, and one of our listeners actually wanted you to talk about it. Is that right, Amie?
One of our listeners?
Oh, I thought it was a fan request to.
Oh no, this was me. It was a me request.
Oh, you're the fan. Okay, you're the fan.
Me. I'm a fan of baseball. Well, and the girls at the ballpark actually ended up posting a little bit more about this. So it's not just about Mike Trout, but it just kind of the fans in general. So Mike Trout on Saturday hit his 400th home run, and the fan ended up, giving the ball back and then getting some signed stuff in return, getting to meet Mike Trout, and then asked to play catch, which I thought was so cool. So now I'm wondering, are we going to see an uptick of this when milestone balls are caught? Are you going to see the people who will either save it because I want to go auction it, or like, no, wait, can we have a catch? And
No,
so,
yeah. To me, actually, I feel like that's better. I mean, you get to play catch with Mike Trout on the field. I thought that was great, and
that's
for those,
priceless.
you know, I wish there were more requests like that. It does seem a little cold to keep the ball and just sell it for money. Um,
Well, here's something to warm the cold cockles of your heart. So on Saturday there were 4 different milestones. So, and this is what I got from Girls at the Ballpark. So Giancarlo Stanton hit his 450th home run, and that was at Yankee Stadium. And so after the game, he met and in all these situations, the fans were happy to give the balls back, which is not what we typically hear, right? So he met the kid and his family. They took photos. He signed bats and balls, and the kid gave him the ball. Same thing with Mike Trout. We saw that the guy gave back the ball. They got to play catch. He got a glove to kind of do that. Mike Trout was playing, without a glove. They were trying to find one for him on the fly, and you did see some of the snide comments on social media of like, oh, Mike Trout goes on the IL with a finger, issue because he was playing catch. And it was like, guys, don't ruin the moment. But Cal Raleigh hit his 57th home run, and he broke Ken Griffey's single season record with the Mariners. And that ball was retrieved by the Astros bullpen catcher, Javier Bracamonte. And he held onto it so that he could personally deliver it and congratulate Cal. And I just thought, like, wow, Saturday, you have all these milestones and people are giving the baseballs back. And it was like, wow, that's refreshing.
yeah, I mean, it's great. The thing is with Mike Trout hitting his 400th home run.
And I didn't play him that night on my fantasy team because he hadn't been doing that well before.
It does make me a little bit sad only because he's been so injury plagued the last few years. If this dude would have stayed healthy, because for the longest period of time, he was the best player in Major League Baseball, and it wasn't even close.
He was the
Uh,
face of the MLB for a while.
I mean, this guy made it look so easy, probably until the unicorn showed up and then things changed a little bit. But if this dude would have, I mean, I know a lot of people, I didn't get to see Mickey Mantle play, but I know a lot of people, older baseball reporters will say that he was the modern day Mickey Mantle. So it is sad to me that we were robbed, because what this guy's numbers would have looked like at the end of his career if he did stay healthy. And I know you can make that comment about a lot of players. You can say that about Ken Griffey Jr., actually. Once he went to Cincinnati, he dealt with a lot of injuries, and it
Or
really
even if he
impacted.
had a better team around him. Like
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Mike Trout hasn't really had any postseason success. I mean, look, for me, I like watching greatness. I really enjoy watching that guy play, and to see that he got 400 home runs. Can he hit another 100 home runs before he retires and join a very elite group of
or
500 home run club?
or even
Uh,
50, like Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah,
Get
I
another
mean,
50.
I mean, there was a point where the 500 home run club was a magic number, and that pretty much guaranteed that you would go into the Hall of Fame. Now, the whole steroid thing changed a little bit of that, but it'll be interesting when Giancarlo retires and he becomes eligible to the Hall of Fame. If he does get to 500 home runs, will they put him? Because that's another guy who dealt with a lot of injuries in his career. And
Mhm.
you wonder, well, if he would have stayed healthy, how much more impressive would his numbers be?
And
It's just
that's
my,
and that's the what ifs. Like we'll never get
yeah.
the answer to that.
So I guess, especially with Kershaw announcing his retirement, just appreciate what you're seeing now, guys, because there may
Mhm.
be a point where you're not going to see it any longer.
And
Real
I
quickly,
want to catch a ball so I can play catch. I want to go play catch with a player. Like that would be amazing. There was another kind of like feel good story out there too. I don't know feel good because it's an owner, but the Tampa Bay Rays, the outgoing principal owner Stu Sternberg, he served as the ball boy on Saturday for the first 4 innings during the Rays Red Sox game, or I'm sorry, on Friday. because he wanted to be as close to the action as possible, and he thought being a ball boy gave him the best view. Like, how cool is that? I mean,
How old is he?
I don't know. Older.
Go ahead. I'll banter while you look that up, but I'm curious to see. I didn't see that, so I'm curious to see how the players treated him. And then was he? Do you know if he was down the foul line or?
I don't know. He's 66 years old.
Well, the San Francisco, the Gigantes of San Francisco, they use older ball boys. So it is fun to see that go out there and play.
I'm trying to
But
see if they say where it was. Let's see. Served. So in game 1 of the Rays series with the Red Sox, Stu spent the first 4 innings of the game serving as ball boy down the right field line. He was nearly put into action from the first play of the game. He wanted to get as close to the action as he possibly could and felt being a ball boy was the best he could have. And while Sternberg hasn't officially sold the team just yet, a deal is expected to be done within the next 2 weeks. And this all came from, again, the Girls at the Ballpark account. So I would not have, I hadn't seen that across social media. So I was really glad that she had put that in her little Substack.
Good for him. He's going out in style.
I want to go play catch and I want to be a ball girl. You know, there's a lot of running involved in that. I see what like Javier and Brandon and those guys have to do. And you know what? I take that back. Maybe if I was a little bit in better shape.
Anything else?
No, I don't have anything. Those were my
real quick.
Stories.
Two stories to go out on real quick. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a scam involved with MLB. I got an email with my ballpark app telling me that I needed to change my password, which I thought was just it was a phishing email. So I ignored it.
You mean the super vague one that said there's been some unusual activity? So whenever I get those, even if they're phishing, I'm not going to click on anything in the email.
Exactly.
But I went directly to my ballpark and my baseball app, and I changed my password regardless. Because I'm like, if you have enough of my information to message me and make it look this accurate, I'm changing my password no matter what.
So basically, what was happening?
You didn't change your password?
No, I guess I'll go in there and change it. The reason why I didn't do it was because I really thought, this is a phishing email or something like that. But as a result, what happened were people's tickets were stolen off of the ballpark app, right? So what was happening was they were showing up to the stadium to use their tickets, and they were showing as already scanned.
Yeah. So luckily, member services actually sent out a more thorough email than the MLB did, because I ended up calling the MLB. That I got the email at like midnight, Saturday into Sunday. And then I called the MLB on Sunday and they were like, oh yeah, sorry, we're getting inundated ourselves. The MLB sent this out, but it turns out like some accounts were accessed and they don't know which. So they're just having everybody reset their password. And I was like, just a little feedback. If they're going to send stuff out like that, they need to give us more information, because that was super vague. It didn't help anybody. And then when the Dodgers membership sent our email out, we got a lot more information. Make sure you update everything. But when I talked to my season ticket rep that Monday at the game, she said they were having people show up. They were having to put them over to the box office and try to get them tickets, because their tickets were gone. They were like, they're scrubbed and they were already sold on third-party sites. So just if anybody hasn't checked their account, just PSA, please change it. Juan, please change your password. Everybody, please change your password no matter what. Make sure you do it on your MLB account, but also your ballpark account. If you also have MLB TV, just make sure you're logging out and logging back into those things. And then just make sure you have access to your tickets.
That's my homework assignment for the.
I can't believe you didn't change it.
That it's one of those things. Well, I didn't have any tickets on there, so that's why I was like, what do I care? But we didn't have this problem before when we had paper tickets. Let me tell you, when I had paper tickets, I was I got into Dodger Stadium to a game that I didn't even have tickets to, Amy. My compadre and I went to a game. All of a sudden, somebody walks up to us and goes, "You're sitting in our seats." And we're like, "What do you mean we're sitting?" And I looked at his ticket, and his ticket was the same seat, same row. And I was like, "How did they sell these tickets twice? I don't understand." And then I looked closer. I went up to the usher, and I was like, "They're like, look, I have tickets for these seats, and they have the same tickets.
Were you top deck?
No, Worse, Amy. The usher looked at me and goes, "Sir, these tickets are for tomorrow night." And I was just like, "What? How did you guys even let me into the stadium if these tickets were for I to this day, my compadre and I laugh about him because he was the one who got the tickets. And I don't know why we thought the game was that night, and we went to it, and they let us in.
Hear us? Okay. My connection died. Was I frozen? Did I pull
You
a Juan?
you froze a little bit. Don't worry, you caught the end of the story. It was no big deal. We're gonna wrap things up anyways. So just for to watch this space in future episodes, it was just announced actually earlier today. The ABS system will be going into effect next year for
Yes.
Major League Baseball. So you
Thank
will no longer be able to complain about balls and strikes, ladies and gentlemen. So
Oh,
we'll talk about that in future episodes, but for now, that's going to do it. Amy, any last words?
no, we're in home stretch, people.
Hopefully, the Dodgers clinch in Arizona. That's going to do it for this episode. For those of you that have been listening on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that notification button, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave us your comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. That was much smoother than last episode, right, Amy?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so that's going to do it for this episode. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amy, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.